Good evening and welcome to the Dallas ISD Bond 2020 meeting for the replacement school for William Atwell. My name is Jacqueline Bell and I'll be serving as your host for today. We have a number of ways you can participate in tonight's meeting. First, we have some people that are joining us on the Zoom, directly on the Zoom call. If you're on our Zoom call, there will be a time where you can, a question and answer period, where you can participate live. You can either do so by entering your question in the chat room or by raising your hand and we'll let you go in. We do ask everyone, if you're not speaking or presenting, to please keep your microphone on mute in order to avoid any distractions. Following, and if you're joining us on Facebook, we thank you for joining us on Facebook and on Facebook in Espanol. You can also submit your questions in the comment section on Facebook and we will share those live and get those answered for you as well during the meeting. We're going to begin our meeting with a reading from the principal of this wonderful school, Principal Whitfield.
Good afternoon, everybody. How's everybody doing? I am excited about this. I want to let you guys know that I was actually on the phone speaking with the ED. She was having problems getting in, so she'll be on shortly. But welcome everybody to the community, everyone who's here. We look forward to hearing your input, and we are wide open for suggestions.
Thank you again, Principal Wilford. We're wishing you a very great, hoping you're having a great year, have a wonderful year this year. After that, of course, we have our trustee for this wonderful school, Trustee Joyce Foreman on. Trustee Foreman, would you like to bring in any greetings at this time?
Of course. To the community, this is a great opportunity that we've been fighting for. It's to get a new school at Atwell. I do want the community's input because this is in your neighborhood, actually my neighborhood also. And so I want as much participation from the community as possible. Thank you.
Thank you, Trustee Foreman, for taking time out to join us today. We also want to make mention of the fact that in addition to participating tonight, if you go to www.dallasisd.org/bond2020, that's dallasisd.org/bond2020, you will find there a project page for Atwell where you can actually go in and follow the progress on this particular project. And if you go to Bond 2020 meetings, there you will find a link that allows, a link where you can actually ask questions and participate there as well. Those will be shared with the project team. So you have multiple ways that you can share your input, not just tonight. So feel free to share that information with your hosts, with your guests, and with your family and friends. We do ask that everyone, if you're on the Zoom call, please mute your phones. We're getting a little bit of noise in the background. We want to make sure that we can clearly hear the presentation. Thank you. So we'll begin tonight's meeting with Brent Alfred, who is the Deputy Chief of Construction and Bond Services, who will give a little bit of background information. Mr. Alfred, if you're ready.
Yeah, thank you, Jackie. As you mentioned, I'm Brent Alfred. I'm the Deputy Chief of Construction Services, and I'm proud to lead this historic $3.5 billion bond program that will last over the next 10 years. And the Atwell project is one of our most exciting projects, which is why we're launching these new schools first. The last time we met, I believe it was back in June, right before the break, we asked you guys to come up with 3 big ideas. And those big ideas would be the guiding light for our architects to kind of inspire us and just hear from you and what you would like to see in the building. And they've incorporated these ideas and we'll keep them throughout the project. The whole process, something like Ms. Trustee Foreman said, it's to get your feedback, to hear from you, let you know what we heard, and do this continuous loop of feedback until we get the building and the program to perfection. So with that said, our architects have been to the drawing boards. They have some more information to share with you tonight. So without further ado, I'd like to introduce you to your architects, WRA and Roberto and Seth. You guys can take it.
Thank you, Brent. So my name is Seth Stevens. I'm with WRA Architects. I'm the architect and project manager on this project. Been working on Dallas ISD schools for the last almost 10 years. And so I've been working in various areas within the district, and happy to have this project to work on. It's going to be a very nice project, and I think everyone enjoy it once it's all done. Robert, you want to introduce yourself?
Yeah, hello, my name is Robert Ramirez. I'm a principal with WRA Architects, and I'm going to help Seth along with this presentation. And I just wanted to say on this one, our intent here, we are school design architects. That is 100% of what we do. And Principal Woodfield, as you were kind of talking through, you know, what you're excited and what you're hoping for the school, our excitement, our intention is to match your excitement as we go through this, and to get into this project and deliver something really that everyone can be proud of. And we know it's going to transform the neighborhood, and we're excited about the possibilities of that. So Seth is going to take it away from here.
Okay. Other people on the project team is Dakita. They are the program manager for this project. Not sure if Walter Dansby's on here or not, if he likes to say anything.
Mr. Dansby has not joined us yet.
Okay. Well, if he joins later, we'll give him the opportunity again. But anyways, Dakita is the program manager for this particular project. So real quick overview of what we're going to talk about. Talk about the existing Atwell school and site. Recap the first community meeting we had that was a couple months ago. Talk over some general school design considerations, some design concepts that we've come up that seem to meet the appropriate needs for the site and community, and some questions and concerns, and we'll listen to everybody at the end of that. So this is the existing site. I imagine most people are fairly familiar with it. There's actually two schools on the site. You can see there's this yellow line, that's the property boundary. And then there is a church and a residence kind of on the southeast side of the site. The red outline is the existing school, and there's some portables where the number 3 is. Number 2 is some existing parking. And then the elementary school is kind of on the northwest side, which is not part of this project, but will remain in the site. And the kind of white box outline is kind of the general location we have earmarked to place the new school at this point. This is just an aerial image of kind of what the site looks like. There's kind of a valley that runs through, sort of a drainage thing, but there's some nice trees, and it's actually a fairly nice view down along through there. So along when we start looking at design, we're going to try and accentuate that as best we can. The existing school is over 60 years old at this point. Hasn't really been updated a whole lot, so we're looking forward to getting something brand new out there. So community meeting recap. So the big ideas that Brent had mentioned, we had a lot of ideas, just some ideas that people said during the last meeting are kind of on the left. But the big, bold, innovative, and generational ideas that the last meeting came up were that they wanted the school to be technologically advanced, a community school, and a safe school. So those are just ideas that our intention is to kind of keep those in the back of our mind while we're working through the process with everybody in this district and the community, and trying to make sure that decisions we make are kind of guided by these 3 principles. So we would like for this to be fairly interactive. So we've got some polls that we'll be doing. So if you have a phone, you can scan the phone with, or scan this QR code with your phone camera, and it'll pull up a website, which will take you to pollev.com/WRE581. And Will from our office is also going to post a link in the chat. If that's easier, you can also do that on your computer. So part of the polling process is there will be some questions, and then kind of down below, there'll be answers, and you can either type in the answer into the field and submit your answer. You can thumbs up answers that other people have given. You can thumbs down them if you don't like people's answers. And I guess just for a note, make sure you click on this kind of yellow bar where it says load more responses. Usually you only have to do that once, but sometimes it it won't automatically reload. So that'll make sure you can see everybody else's answers. Okay, so the first poll we've got is keeping with what we had for our three big ideas: technologically advanced, community school, and safe school. If you have any ideas that you would rather see as a guiding principle than one of those, if you want to type that in. If you don't, that's fine. You can hit no. But I just want to give everybody a minute or two to kind of think about these again. And if you've had second thoughts on any of them, now's the time to adjust.
So yeah, just to kind of briefly describe a little bit more about what these mean. Technologically advanced is, of course, as it says, it's about adding more technology, making sure that the school is forward thinking and meeting today's technology needs, but also be ready for the future. And a lot of those things are going to be already goals for Dallas ISD. In addition to the technologically advanced, we take that to mean that the building is going to have a lot more glass in it, a lot more views to the outside, a little bit more of a technological feel to it in the aesthetic and how it's designed. So that's one thing to keep in mind for that one. The community school is just making sure that we can have some discussions about how the school interacts with the neighborhood it's in. And as I said, it's going to be a large impact, or it's going to have a big impact on its neighbors. And so we're designing the school with that in mind, whether there's areas that we want to allow some sidewalks or a walkway, I think is what we talked about before. And then of course, having a safe school, that's important in all the schools, and that's going to be always our number one goal. But in addition to making it our number one goal, or in addition to what we would normally do, because as I said, we do a lot of schools that, and this is always included, we just want to be mindful of how we place the school and how the school interior is designed, how access is always at the front of mind. So just to kind of clarify what those are.
Hey, Mr. Ramirez, I just saw something new here. Someone put yes, a green space. Is this the appropriate time for us? I would like to hear more about that and what they're saying.
Yes, that'd be great. Yeah, and I don't know if there's someone on Facebook Live. I don't know if they have the possibility of maybe communicating or maybe adding in a chat in Facebook Live.
Yes, they can. If you're on Facebook Live and you're using the poll and would like to share additional information about your thoughts about the poll itself, please just feel free to put those in the comments, and we will share those here on the site. If you're actually using the poll from the Zoom meetings, if you can go off of mute and comment, that would be great.
Hi, I'm Dr. Jasmine Parker. That was my comment on incorporating green spaces into the aesthetic design of Atwell. I am an alumni of Atwell, and I'm also very cognizant of climate change, and also keep in mind with STEM and STEAM schools, personalized learning, aspects and modalities of learning. When thinking about the design and the infrastructure of the school, I think incorporating green spaces can be quite useful, not only for student learning, but also just for the upkeep of operational expenses as well. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Dr. Parker.
Thank you. I think that is a great idea, and it is very forward thinking. Dr. Parker, thank you for that input.
Yeah, I appreciate that. I guess my only other question would be is, do we want to replace any of these other three with that one? I think green spaces are something we can definitely work into the design, or if they should replace one of the other kind of big three ideas.
I don't know that it would need to replace it, but I think it definitely is appropriate and should be considered, and could definitely fall in within one of those buckets of community school or technologically advanced. I'm sorry, I'm tongue-tied tonight. I think it can fit in either one of those. I just think it's a consideration that needs to be made more than a big idea.
Yeah, I agree. I think it could fit into some of the buckets we already have. So anyways, appreciate the feedback. We'll definitely keep that in consideration. I think in general, we'll probably keep the technologically advanced community school and safe school as the big three guiding principles, and then we'll elaborate on that a little bit more as we move on.
If we
Said-
could,
Have any of the home owners or HOA folk, they were invited. We certainly definitely want to hear from you. That whole community school bucket was definitely for you. And we're wanting to partner in with you as much as possible. My thought process was there just from my sheer observation around the campus and watching the numbers of families that are out walking and around the community, and us wanting to have a track that was accessible to you guys to walk around, and just multiple things. So please jump in. Any HOA members that are online, we really want to hear from you.
And if you're on our Zoom call and want to participate, you can simply raise your hand or drop a message in the chat room. We'll make sure we'll get those answered. Again, if you're joining us on Facebook, please feel free to submit your questions or comments, and we will share those. Just submit them as comments in the chat section on, excuse me, on Facebook, and we'll be sure to incorporate those as well. Okay, back to you, Seth.
Okay, I'm gonna go ahead and move on. We've got some question and answer stuff later on. So if you've got more comments and questions, we'll field those a little bit later too. Okay, so part of the last meeting, and at the end of the last meeting we had, there was a link that had kind of some general design survey polling on it. And it was, put maybe a few questions and showed a bunch of images and kind of asked people to rank their preferences on various objects. So we had these design surveys that we sent out, and we got some feedback back on those. And these are the results of those. There was these 6 images kind of shown of various styles of school, if you will. And the preferred one seemed to be this kind of image number 3, kind of at the top. And then these numbers 1, 2, and 7, the ones right below, those all kind of were tied for second and third place, was this one down here at the bottom. So I don't know that necessarily guides anything, except for it. The image number 3 kind of seems a little more forward thinking, technologically advanced maybe. So that may help fill into that bucket a little bit. And this is not necessarily what the school will look like when it's all done. These are just existing buildings that we're trying to just gather some information. So here's some more close-up buildings, close-up images of those buildings. So, and we also asked for some kind of input and feedback on what sort of outdoor space seemed more appropriate and people seemed to like the best. So the same one, there was 5 images on this slide, and the preferred one seemed to be this number 6 at the top. And the next ones were kind of the ones following that. So the first place, and then number 2, 2, and 2, and these are all sort of courtyard outdoor areas of schools. And it seems that the number 1 has kind of a high-tech, futuristic sort of look to it. So that maybe plays along with the technologically advanced theme a little bit. And like I said, this is not what the school will look like, but we're just kind of trying to field ideas of what seems to be the preferred style. So moving on, the design concepts. So we've had the opportunity to work in the last couple months over since the last one, and we've come up with a whole bunch of ideas of ways this building may work out. These are just some of the considerations we think about whenever we design schools: natural light access, safety and security, of course, connection to outdoor activities, the public versus the private, which also kind of fits into the safety and security to some degree, loud versus quiet spaces, keeping gymnasiums away from quiet classrooms, flexibility and future adaptability, how this school may change over time, and just thinking about that. Vehicle access, how the traffic patterns could be affected, how to keep cars and buses off the streets and get them onto the site so that we're not impacting the neighborhood with the traffic flow. And then, of critical adjacencies and separations of which spaces need to be next to each other and which ones need to be further away. So this is a lot of kind of napkin sketch diagrams here of various concepts that we went through of how this replacement school could work. We kind of boiled it down to two that are sort of the most viable, and there's various reasons for that, but this is option one. And so just for note here, second here. Okay, just for note, the orange bar, orange is classrooms. The red is sort of an admin space. Green is library, yellow is your food service cafeteria, and this across the hall is actually a kitchen food service area as well. And then the purple is your fine art spaces, which includes things like choir, band type spaces, auditorium, black box, that sort of thing. And then the blue boxes are a competition gym and an auxiliary gym. And on this particular scheme, we have the locker room underneath, which there's some things we'll have to work on that, but we'll work through that. And I guess just for note, these are just design concepts right now. We're working our way in from big picture to little picture, and then we'll kind of work from there into what the building really looks like. So the next meeting we have, we'll have a little more honed down, give you a little bit better idea of what the building will actually look like instead of just colored blocks.
So in this scheme, I just wanted to add that, that was mentioned earlier by one of the community members that designing with a sustainable mindset was important, that this is the best orientation for a classroom building to have north, and north is up on this drawing right here. So that north side of all the classrooms is going to have a lot of indirect light, which is the best light that you can have. You don't have any direct sunlight or glare coming into the classrooms from that side. So this makes it really nice view to the north, which also happens to be where that kind of a shady little valley that's already on the site. So it'll have a nice view towards that side. And we'll make the possibility for having maybe like a walk path or a little trail for the community to use potentially. And then also places everything, all of the athletics and everything on the south side of the building, which is adjacent to the play fields as well that we're proposing to relocate down there. And just in terms of how the timing works out, it's better for the fields and everything to be built after the school is demolished. So that's why you see the red outline of the existing building there. So that will be done after the school is demoed, which just helps that the construction of the building happens while the school is still in session.
I guess real quick note on traffic. So this was a kind of a big concern with the principal and various other people within the design team. So on this particular one, the number 2 is your bus drop off, and the number 5 is the parent drop off. So these curb cuts align with the streets that are existing, and so they may seem a little strange as to why they do that, but that's why this one kind of jogs out the way it does. The city traffic planning requires us to align with adjacent streets and when we're putting in new curb cuts. So that's why they're kind of placed where they are. But to the benefit, this number 5, there's a whole lot of queue space and stack space within the site that will get cars off of Reynoldston Lane, which my understanding right now is pretty much everybody that's dropped off or picked up is dropped off on the street. So getting everybody off the street, I believe the buses are dropped off on Regatta. So the plan is, even though the new entrance to the building would technically be off of Regatta, the only people that would actually be coming through there would be the occasional visitors. There's a little visitor parking lot up there, but the buses would actually come in and get off of the road and then actually queue and stack inside the property line. So they would not be on the street.
Also, before we move off of this slide and the following slide, we're going to have an opportunity for everybody to offer input and comment on these schemes. So this is the first of 2 schemes that we're going to show you.
Yeah, and I guess another quick option. No, so go ahead.
The right here to the right of the parent drop off. Is that the existing parking lot? Is that what that is over there to the right?
This
Yeah.
one, this
Yeah.
is the church parking lot. So the existing parking lot is kind of here. So it'll be removed, and then there'll be parking located here and some additional parking kind of around this side. And this yellow dash line is just thinking about potential future expansion. So if in a decade or something, there's enough students and, you know, people that want to come to this school that we're starting to get overcrowded, it's pretty easy to, you know, add on some more classrooms or other spaces. Kind of just continue the line without adding a whole bunch of portables or, you know, a bunch of weird things sticking out from the building. So we're trying to think that through before it needs to happen.
Thank you.
And I guess just for note, the plan is to keep the existing building intact and functioning until the new building is pretty much completed. And so that's why this is kind of placed where it is on the site. It's really the only way for us to do that, short of, you know, vacating the building for several years while the new building's built. So, okay. And these are just some kind of conceptual block massing. If you're familiar with the site, the site slopes and drops off quite a bit, just like the existing building. It goes from 2 floors and then it kind of drops down to a 3rd floor with the cafeteria down low. It's not really noticeable unless you go in through the cafeteria. This may kind of function in a similar way where we've got classrooms and then there may be some fine art spaces kind of on the lowest floor that can open up directly out to these nice outdoor spaces and utilize that for, you know, arts classes or things like that.
So one of the things, Seth kind of alluded to this earlier on the previous slide, but the school, because it is east-west, because it has more of a rectangular shape on that center of the site. It is fronted on Regatta, but it's also set back a little bit farther away so we can landscape in front of it. So it won't be I mean, it is going to be 2 stories, at least a 2-story volume there, especially in the classrooms. But it's not going to be imposing because it's going to be set back from the street, and it's also in the middle of the site, and it's compact. It's 3 stories in the center of the site, so it's not going to be, again, imposing on the site. So that's that was an important feature of this option here.
I think since we're talking about the site, right now we don't show any trees on these renderings. These are just diagrams. When we come back in a month or so with the next round of what this is going to look like, we'll have kind of proposed trees shown and that sort of thing. But there will be a bunch of trees kind of surrounding the site to kind of help filter out views from the neighborhood and, you know, add some more greenery to the site. Okay, so kind of the next question and poll is, what do you like about this first option? The things you like about it. There'll be another one to answer if you don't like things about it. So hold that for the next one.
Yeah, feel free to unmute as well and ask the question as well if you don't, you know, if it's easier to do that than it is to type it.
Hi, this is Trustee Foreman. I've had my hand raised for a minute. Because one of the things that I'm concerned about, I actually lived in that neighborhood on Russell Glen, which is the street that's adjacent to Regatta, that runs into Regatta. And I'm concerned that having the school front on Regatta is going to affect those neighbors. While we say we have a queuing line for pickup, these are middle school children, and a lot of them parents will not get in the queuing line. They will be parked on the street. When people come to visit the school, they're gonna park on Regatta. And so I am concerned about that particular neighborhood. Not only will they park on Regatta, they'll be parked on Russell Glen too to pick up their children. So I think Principal Whitfield, some of that needs to be taken into consideration, and we probably need to have another conversation, Brent Alfred, to make sure that those neighbors are not affected. The way the school is facing now on Reynoldston, it's the houses are not there. So the people are on the street, but they're not affecting homes. The only street that they park on is that one street that comes right into the school. So I think that needs to be taken into consideration. And Principal Whitfield, I think we probably need to have a conversation with the Twin Oaks Homeowners Association to get their input. I know the president of the Homeowners Association, and I think before we get too far, we need to have that conversation.
Yes, ma'am. No, that's absolutely something that we can do. I know that Ms. Bell did reach out to them as well for this meeting to invite them. So duly noted, Trustee Foreman. And I think that you are right. One of the things, and these are all just temporary, nothing is etched in complete stone yet. But
Principal Whitfield, what I do know is once you give an okay, people go. I don't want to leave this meeting not understanding that there is going to be some neighborhood impact with the way this design is. And we don't live there. Those individuals live there. We need to make sure that we're looking out for them too. While I want a new school, I don't want to adversely impact the people who've been there for years.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
I think we're saying the same thing.
Okay.
So none of this is like, nothing is etched in stone. And we certainly want to hear from them and get their feedback on it. So I am totally open to that.
Okay.
And
Thank
Principal
you.
Whitfield and Trustee Foreman, I'll reach out to you guys and so we can get with the neighborhood and the architect and also talk about, this impact and what's our best solution for it before we meet again later on. Okay.
All right.
And also, everyone, if you would, we do have one comment in the chat space. I don't know, Ms. Bell, if you would like to go off mute and share your thoughts, or would you like me just to read it from your chat?
Hear me, because can you hear me?
Yes, ma'am, we can.
Okay, because I'm having problems with that and I'm on the phone with it. I'm also member in the Twin Oaks community as well. This is my community in which we're homeowners here as well. And Ms. Whitfield, I do know that the principal over at Adele Turner, that's what Ms. Farmer, that's where we used to host our meetings, our monthly meetings.
Ma'am. Yes,
And
ma'am.
I know that for the that night for our get together that we had for our block party, she did say that she's going to try to get the meetings back there at Adele Turner. So I know that that's always a nice turnout. So Ms. Whitfield, when she does make that decision, I'm sure she'll reach out to you. And I know, like I said, that's always a nice gathering. That's a good way where we could get the word out in the community and get the community members' input as well.
Yes, ma'am.
So
I've been there several times, so I will make sure that I talk to the president about that kind of a meeting. Okay.
And she'll reach out to you, Ms. Whitfield, because she said it that night at the block party.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you. And Ms. Crittenden was here, and
Yes.
I know her personally, so I certainly will be reaching out to her as well.
And also, Mr. Woodward, you have your hand raised. If you would go off mute with your comment, with your question or comment now at this time. Mr. Woodward? We see your hand is raised in the chat.
Yes. Can you
Yes,
hear
sir.
me?
Yes, sir, we can.
Okay. I'm the one that lives directly across from those portable buildings
Yes, sir.
on Regatta. And I'm extremely concerned, and I listened to what they were saying about reaching out to the community, but 2 weeks ago was the first time I heard anything about it. And the school being built the way it would be, with the front of the school facing my home, where the bus is about 30 yards from my front door. Now, when they pick up the kids and when they unload them in the morning, and after from between 7 and 9 in the morning, they unload the kids right out in the front of their yard, and that's where all of them is, where all the congestion is. And when they come to pick the kids up, they park on the buses on one side of the street, the cars are parked on the other side of the street. So you can barely get to your house, and you definitely don't have any parking in the front of your house. The police department don't enforce parking. So I don't know what will happen now since they put in the front of the building. And like the lady said earlier, the way the building is erected now, there is no homes and there is no cars parked in the front of these people's houses. So I don't know what consideration the school is giving to these houses that's directly over here by these portable buildings. But I've been here for 37 years. And when they put the portable building in, no one reached out to us. And I personally talked to Miss Foreman a couple of times. She came to our church and spoke, and I've spoken to her a couple of times. But we are never, ever contacted about nothing that goes on at Atwell School. I've talked to Miss Whitfield about the people parking when they let these little league teams play football over here, but nothing has been done about that. The police won't enforce the no parking that's in front of our houses. So I don't know what's going to happen to our homes, and they don't have no respect for this community, because I have to go, the neighbors pick up the paper when we walk around the school. So it really, somebody should have some input and consider the neighborhood and consider our homes and consider the way the parking is.
Yeah, I think this is the type of feedback we're looking for. This is our outreach to hear from the community, and the decision is not made to.
I think that's.
Can I say something, Mr. Woodard?
Yes.
Mr. Woodard, we hear you. And I think this is what they needed to hear. As a trustee, I can say something. I used to be your neighbor, remember, on Russell Glen.
Yes, I've talked to you several times.
I know. And so I understand the frustration. That's why I raised the issue. This is an opportunity. As I've been told before, this is just something on paper. And I think Ms. Whitfield is saying the same thing. We want to listen. I want to listen. I want to make sure that the impact is limited. But by the same token, I want to make sure that they get a new school in this area, because the children deserve a new school. We just have to work together to figure it out. And when we call this meeting with the Twin Oaks Neighborhood Association, I want you on the front row, okay?
I'll be on the front row, but
okay.
Now that I've had the opportunity to speak and Ms. Whitfield is present, I'd like to have the opportunity to ask her to stop those people from having those football games out there on that football field.
Hey, Mr. Woodard, how are you? Hey, we have gone to the district about it, and they have been given a warning, but like on the weekends, they will sneak up there, and let's meet again after this. My executive director is on the line as well, Dr. Wiggum, but your concern, I did take that right on up. And so I want you to know that when we are looking at this, I'm taking everything into consideration. And I heard what you said, and I don't want you to be convenienced. I can only imagine, that is great that you've lived in one place for 37 years. So my last goal is to inconvenience you in any way. And so when we looked at this design, the one that you're seeing, and again, nothing is etched in stone. This is taking back off the street, and there are two entrances. So I wanted to talk about that entrance that's on Reynoldston, that white part you see up there, that is where the cars will go for drop off, and not on that street on Regatta. Now I'm open to whatever, and Trustee Foreman and I will be able to sit down and we'll be able to, talk about it and get more input from you. But my understanding, the way that one was explained, is where you see the number 2, that's pushed back. Like that would be way off the street, back by where the portables currently are, and the buses would go in through that way. But for parent drop off over here on Reynoldston, right there is where those cars would come in. Okay, so we would try, and again, this is nothing that is for sure, but we want to hear what your thoughts are with that. And let's work together to figure out what the best route is. And also, one of the other things is if you look at that field right there, Mr. Woodard, that would put the field away from in front of your house as it stands now. That field would be on Reynoldston. So those cars and things, you would have parking over on that side as well. So just multiple things to be considered. So let us know your thoughts.
And right now, we also have a question from Facebook. Ike Isaac asks, what about construction traffic such as trucks, and what impact would that have? And I know we may be jumping ahead a little bit, but that is a question that did come up.
Okay, that's going to be one of the Mr. Ramirez and one of you guys. I'm going to
Right, Seth.
Yeah, there will be construction traffic. It's kind of going to be unavoidable. Typically, what they'll do is they'll believe the city of Dallas has an ordinance that they can't work before 7 or after 7. It may actually be less time than that, but so trucks shouldn't be idling in front of anyone's houses at 4 a.m. or anything like that. And they'll probably make its own little construction entrance that is not one of these, and kind of gives them a staging area that's further into the site that's not going to really affect people as much. There will be noise, there will be people on there, but they'll fence the area in. They'll put a obscure fence on there, so it's kind of a blacked out area, so you don't see people's front lawns and stuff, or the construction going on very well. But that's all things that will work out with the contractor once they get on board, which it's a while off at this point. We're talking probably this time next year.
Also, so everyone knows, we will be working with the principal, so that anytime there's any disruption or any major construction that may be going on that would impact the community will receive notices about that prior to it occurring, so you'll understand any inconveniences that come up. So we are working on with the principal and with the project team on major construction projects to ensure that we are sending those messages out prior to any possible disruptions.
Yeah. Jackie, this is Aaron Johnson. I'm with Dakita, project manager.
Yes, Aaron, how are you doing?
Doing well. So the question or the issue is a great concern. We had the same concern at other projects that we're currently managing, and we work very, very close with the principal, their staff, on laying out the construction area, fencing it in, trying to work on keeping that area very discreetly placed, and making sure that the approved contractor that will be building the facility, that their employees plus the subcontractors are parking in a very in an area where it's secluded from the public. So we really want to make sure that our impact is small as far as inconvenience, and large as far as production in building the construction site. So, but we constantly will meet on a weekly basis where we have constant interaction with the principal. So we want to do our best for the community to be excited, and we want to make sure that we're listening to the concerns and building this project accordingly. So that's all I have.
We don't have any other hands raised right now or any other questions. So Seth, if you want to move forward on the poll, I believe you still have polling options available.
I believe Mr. Woodard has his hand raised.
Oh, Mr. Woodard, I'm sorry, Mr. Woodard.
Yes. I was listening to what the construction manager was saying.
Yes, sir.
But my question is, who is going to enforce all of these rules that they are referring to when there is no police presence? The only police presence in this area is the campus police lady, and she don't come outside of the building unless there is a problem. So my question is, all of these policies that you're talking about, who's going to enforce them and enforce the rules? The principal and all of the staff at Atwell School leaves when school is over with. So who is going to be responsible for making sure that all of these rules that you're talking about and all these precautionary measures and cleanup and the large trucks parking coming out here early in the morning, who's going to be responsible for policing this, since you said that? Because no one at Atwell School is there after 4:30 or 5 o'clock in the evening. So I want to know who's going to do that.
Okay. Well, sir, this is Aaron Johnson again. So basically, we manage the contractor, and we're constantly either in communication or we are on the site on a regular basis during the week consistently. So we manage the contractor and make sure that they abide by the contracts and rules from that are approved by DISD. So that is basically our job. So when we come into a community and we build a new facility, those are the things that we constantly manage. And we are currently doing this in other communities within the city limits as well, within DISD. So that's how it works on our end. But I think this meeting today is good to address your concerns. And if you stay with us, then you will constantly or gradually see the progression of how we do our job.
Well, the question was, who is going to be held responsible? I understand you saying what you're saying, but what I'm saying is, who will be responsible for DISD, from DISD, when we, the neighborhood, have concerns about what's going on?
Mr. Woodard,
Yes.
you can always contact me. But the ultimate, this is Trustee Foreman.
Ms. Foreman, we'll have a conversation.
Yeah, you can always contact me. I'm always available, and you know that, and everybody else knows that. But the ultimate person that is going to be responsible for making sure that all of this works is Brent Alfred. He's the deputy chief over construction, and I will be holding him accountable for the neighborhood to make sure that it happens. You know, I'm not a wilting flower, and so I don't have any problem with addressing any issues that come up.
Yes, Mr. Woodard. Like I said, I'm Brent Alfred, Deputy Chief of Construction Services. So yes, I'm responsible. I will reach out to you to get your contact information, make sure you have mine.
Okay.
I don't see any other questions or comments at this time. If we could go ahead and move forward, I believe there's another option that the team wanted to present as well.
Okay, so this is option number 2, which I imagine some of the comments from the previous one are still probably similar comments, but this particular one is orients a little further north on the site and wraps around the treed valley a little bit better. Orange is once again the classroom. On this one, the admin and library is sort of located on this location here, where the blue and green is right here. Fine arts is the purple, and the blue is your gymnasium, storm shelters, locker rooms. and that sort of thing. Benefit of this one is it leaves the existing ball field intact, and then relocates the soccer/football field kind of onto the south end of the site, which pulls that a little away from Reynoldston a little bit.
Yeah, and in this scheme, it's entirely a two-story scheme. So where before we were kind of going down the hill a little bit more, and you kind of buried that lower floor underneath. This is all 2 stories all the way across, and so it also kind of frames that view down the shady valley, I guess, as the focal point for the school too. The drawbacks are, of course, that this isn't the best orientation for solar control for sun. You're going to get some glare. The north-south means that the west classrooms are going to get more direct sun in the afternoon, and the east classrooms on the east wall are going to get the morning sunlight coming in. So there's going to be a little more glare, hard to control, but still manageable.
Yeah, I think the real exciting part of this is how this courtyard kind of accentuates this treed valley. There are some, setbacks related to that. It uses up a little more of the site. It is not as easily expandable like the other one. This one, you'd have to redo the parking if you had to expand it in a decade or two. But it is still fairly compact, and it does keep the ball field intact without having to kind of rebuild that as well. I guess other notes on this one, we had the buses coming in off the south side where the number 2 is, and the parent drop off on the west side where the number 5 is. There's a little bit longer queue space here. I guess there's always the possibility of linking these 2 drives together so that there's not people parked directly in front of Regatta. It's everyone enters and exits off Reynoldston, and then they kind of work their way around. But a similar thing could be accomplished on the other one as well, if that's preferable. So, and then of course we could always flip flop and have the buses go on Regatta, or students getting picked up and dropped off on the south end. There's just not as much stack space, so there may end up being some people in the road a little bit. Okay, so there's another poll here. If you have any things that you particularly like about this option versus the other one, feel free to use the poll link, pollev.com/WRA581, or use your phone to scan that, and you can type in a response or vote up and down any ones that are on there. We'll give everybody a minute or two to consider that.
And again, if you're joining us on Facebook, please feel free to enter any comments to use the scan and the link this in the Facebook comments for the poll itself. Or you can also make your comments via in your comment section on Facebook. If you're on our if you're joining us live in the meeting on Zoom, you can raise your hand and we'll answer any questions and receive input. I do want to acknowledge the fact that Dr. Wiggum, if you want to unmute and share what you typed in the chat, that'd be great.
Yes. For some of our community members that are concerned, I've been a part of several of the projects as well. And I've seen where most of the construction sites have been maintained and kept in good control. But if there are some other concerns as well, I put my number in the chat. So please feel free to call me as well. And I can't make a promise about security, but I will see if we can get at least, as they're driving through, to do some checks more frequently. But, if there are some concerns, just please give me a call.
Thank you so much for sharing that. And again, we have these polling options going on here, and also the opportunity to speak. Does anyone have any comments they want to share on this particular schematic that orients the building a little bit further towards Adele Turner and then has the queuing a little bit separated?
Okay, I'll go ahead and go on the next one, which is just any, if you have any concerns about this one, Moreover, of the other one.
Okay, I don't think I see anyone's hands raised in the Zoom call, and we're not getting any comments. We're getting some likes and some loves and some thumbs up on Facebook as far as reacting to these plans, but not any real comments. So if you want to continue, Seth, that'd be great.
Okay, looks like someone has option. They prefer option one because it takes resident parking away from residents' homes, which is a good comment. Okay, I'm gonna go ahead and move on to the next slide. So I think based on the last person's comment, it's just a general trying to get some consensus and direction as of the two options presented, what is your preference? And just for note, these are just the schematic options. They're not set in stone. We can still look at how the traffic works and parking and all that stuff. And these are by all means not finished.
Yeah, and really from this, for option one, what we're trying to get at, as Seth said, it's not set in stone. We're able to move things around as needed, but in option one, it really is more of an east-west orientation in the center. That's really what if you choose that scheme or that option, that's kind of the direction we're headed. In option two, back in option one, it's more of a three-story kind of sloping down the hill, minimizes the impact on the ground. And then in option two, we're kind of spreading it out a little bit more and kind of encompassing or focusing in down the valley. So those are the major differences in those two.
There was a comment in the chat. I think that was Dr. Parker was asking, is there a way to get A and B side by side, Mr. Stevens or Mr. Ramirez? Can we do that? Is there a way to see them side by side?
I don't think we can do that at the same time. We've got a little small thumbnail.
Okay.
Yeah, there's the little outlines there. It's a little hard to see because they're not real big. I can't really zoom in on it. I can kind of go back to them real quick and just kind of. So this was option one. I'll leave that up for a minute and then I'll go back over to the other one here in just a second.
And Mr. Stevens or Mr. Ramirez, do we have anything that has an orientation where the school is not facing Regatta, or is every option that so far, I know that nothing is set in stone, but is there any that present itself where we would be facing Reynoldston?
Yeah, unfortunately, if you can go real quick, Seth, I don't know if you can go back to the existing site plan or just the existing aerial so we can see the whole existing site, but there's not a lot of locations to build on. As you can see there, we've got the existing school, of course, that we can't build on. There's the parking lot, which is number two, that's going to be used and needed throughout the school, throughout the duration of construction, so we can't build there. We are very limited on where we can build. So during construction, we're going to have to take the gymnasiums offline, the ones that are shown in that upper small red rectangle. Those are going to have to be taken offline so we can build. And then the football field is going to have to be used for construction. So there's very, very few locations to build on. And I think that's kind of why we're leaning towards Regatta and up into the corner there of Drury and Regatta.
And if we were to go with the current, like if an option was to keep it like it is now, what are the pros and cons of that? Could you discuss that a little bit?
Yeah, of option one, the pros and cons of option one?
No, if we were wanting to do front facing to Reynoldston.
Front facing to Reynoldston, what that would require is moving all the students to another school for a year, maybe a little bit.
2 years, yeah.
Okay.
It is an option, but that's just that's the reality of it, is that the school would have to be taken offline for at least 2 years and relocated, and then people could come back after the school is completed.
Thank you.
Okay, and that was option 2 here. I believe the poll is still active. It's just not up on the screen, so you can still answer on your phone or however you may have clicked on the link.
Again, please, if you're Facebook, the link for the poll is in the chat, is in the comment section. So please feel free to participate. And also, I want to remind everyone, if you visit www.dallasisd.org/bond 2020 meetings, there is a link there where you can ask additional questions even after the meeting. So please be sure to stay informed and stay involved. We'll also be updating information about the progress and additional meetings on that website as well. Again, that's dallasisd.org/bond 2020 meetings.
I guess if you're having trouble with the polling, you can also just make a note in the comments or on Facebook or however you're attending.
And there's a little number at the top where it looked like you can text your response as well. Yeah, you can text it. It's at the top. It's tiny. You can't really see it.
I see Ms. Parker has her hand raised for a question. Ms. Parker, go ahead.
Hi, I don't mean to be difficult. I just have a question comparing option 1 and option 2. I don't see the red box for the administration principal office. I'm wondering if that's the green square on option 2, because I see a red square and a green square on option 1 that's right next to cafeteria food services. I don't
Correct.
see where central office administration will be for option 2.
Yeah, option 2 is where the red arrow is. So it's actually underneath the green box. So the green box on that one is 2 floors. And so the admin will be underneath it with the library on top.
Oh, that's interesting. Okay, thank you.
Mm-hmm. I'm not sure how many responses we've gotten. Looks like we only have 1 response. Would anybody else like to give a preference?
Okay, I think that if anyone's having difficult with the poll, with the polling device itself, you can certainly make your comments known either on Facebook in the comments or in the chat room itself.
Okay, give this another 30 seconds or so, kind of last chance to try and plug in this. Okay, give this another 30 seconds or so. And I guess on these, I wouldn't solely base your decision on the parking layout. The parking layout's very easy to adjust. So if you tend to prefer one based on the layout of the building, please pick that one and we can adjust parking fairly easily.
There was a great, excuse me, comment in the chat. Ms. Hinton stated with option 1, there seems to be room to expand. If option 2 was a consideration, Mr. Stevens or Mr. Ramirez, is there room for expansion with 2?
There is, but we would have to lose some parking to do that, or we have to, when it is added on, we'd have to reconfigure the parking to allow for that to happen. And there's expansion at the northwest corner. It's kind of hard to see there, but it's there. And that's one of the drawbacks for that scheme. But
Okay, any last minute responses anybody wants to put in, or just comments?
Ms. Bell, if you would like to go ahead, if you want to go on mute and make share your thoughts.
Yes, no, I took a picture of it and I was going to enlarge where I was putting it in the chat where they could text in their option. That's all, because it's real tiny at the top. So I had to enlarge it.
Okay. And so everyone knows this presentation will be shared at the www.dallasisd.org/bond 2020 meetings site. So from neighbors and persons from the community who did not get a chance to attend this meeting, you can go onto the website and you'll be able to view the recording of this meeting. And also they'll be able to review the presentation itself and submit questions and comments that way. And also, of course, the presentation is being on Facebook, so it'll be there as well. So we do have options. We'll continue to take input from the community on that. Okay, David Merrick said he would like to see a fine arts wing.
Yeah, I guess just for note, the purple, which is really small in these pictures, but both of these do have kind of their own little fine arts wing / section of the building. So that security wise, they could be kind of blocked off after hours if there's an after hours event, or something that's on a weekend that there's a play or whatever the case may be. They don't give them full access to the rest of the building. It's security. Okay, I'm gonna go ahead and go on to the next slide. And I think it's basically just to open up to free questions, concerns, comments, any of that. So now's the time.
I just want to start out by ensuring everyone to just know and take a breath and understand that no final decisions have been made. I want to hear from everyone. Your voice is as equal as my voice is. So I'm not pushing any one option over the other. But I do want to hear from all of you. I think there are some things and nuances that internally that I can add, as well as there are some things that my valued homeowners can add as well. So we want to take all of that into consideration. So I appreciate Mr. Woodard for being on and giving his input about the new building. So please feel free, anyone who's on the line, to state what your concerns are, and let's try and reconcile all of that. Thank you.
Okay, do we have any, we're going to open it up now for questions again. Are there any other questions from the community itself that you would like to share?
So this is Trustee Foreman. One of the things that I think is important is for the community to have some kind of an understanding of how long the construction will possibly take.
We're looking at a project this size would probably be about 14 to 16 months.
Mr. Alfred, for clarity, that is actual active construction, correct? But
Yeah.
from this point forward, we're looking at a possible school opening date of when?
This is going to be fall of 2024. We're aiming for. We'd actually finish spring of 2024, but there'll be a move-in period. So to capture it all, the total duration of the entire project, which we're probably in about 3 months right now, is probably 30 to 32 months, give or take. We have some time in there set aside for permitting, but the design phase we're currently in right now is a 12-month cycle.
So has the district done a traffic study regarding the moving the frontage to Regatta?
No, not yet. We're not to that phase. I think based on the feedback we're getting now, we probably need to do another option. I'm going to talk with Seth and Roberto about that as we move forward before our next meeting.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
So, Deputy Alfred, what did, and you probably said this and I didn't catch it.
Mm-hmm.
So how far out are we actually from the start of construction? I know there are multiple phases that still need to occur. So realistically, when would this even begin?
I want to break ground. Oh, yeah. I want to break ground probably late fall next year. Like I said, they'll do 12 months of design. We'll probably go to an October board, and then it'll take us another month to get the GC actually under contract after the board approves. So I'm aiming, like I said, late fall of 2022 to start construction.
Thank you.
Okay. We have a Facebook comment about the two designs. Camelia Bryant asked about green space and also a park or playground. And she says she feels as though image one or option one adds character to the neighborhood. Thank you for sharing with us on Facebook, Ms. Bryant.
I think there were a couple of hands up. Ms. Parker, Mr. Woodard has.
Ms. Parker, yes, Ms. Parker, I know you had said that you wanted to speak, so if you could go ahead now.
Oh, thank you very much. I have a question related to the designs of classrooms. I wonder, because Atwell has the Law Academy wing, and then there are several DISD schools that are transitioning into early college high schools, or the STEM school or the STEAM schools. And so I wonder, will there be workstations designed into the classroom? Will there be some courtrooms in the classroom to allow students to get a realer feel of what it is to practice the law and to study the law in any other field? For example, I mean, when I was at Atwell years ago, there was like the wood shop area, and then a home ec room, and the orchestra classroom and things like that. But there weren't spaces like a law class, but there was a law academy. And I just wonder, what type of designs have you all been contemplating as relates to inside of the school? Because we have seen a presentation on what the outside aesthetic will look like. So if you could walk us through some of your preliminary examples, that would be really great if you have them. Thank you.
Can I jump in here and kind of answer a little of that? First of all, Dr. Parker, I absolutely love you. Your questions and your feedback they're great. So I actually have had a conversation with Trustee Foreman, as well as with my executive director about various pathways here. So we've not gotten to that phase of it where we're talking about the interior, but I want you to know that we've been thinking about it. We've talked about definitely keeping the law and aligning more with our feeder school, which is Carter. We talked about technology and STEM. There were multiple things that we've considered. I've even done some work around the most sought after jobs or vacancies in this area and trying to match up things that way. So a lot of work, and I would love to talk to you more and for you to be a thought partner in that work. So we have some ideas on that. And yes, we will. I would like to see, if everyone is in agreement, that those are dedicated spaces to dedicated pathways, if that makes sense.
Thank you. That is a great answer. And I would love to be in touch with you. So I can give you my email address. I don't see where I can send it in the chat, but I'm more than open to giving that. And I'm actually in town in Oak Cliff, right down the street from the school. So we can definitely chat offline. And thank you for answering.
Thank you.
Is there anyone else? Mr. Woodard, did you have additional comments? I don't see any other hands raised at this time.
I just wanted to ask the question if there was serious consideration of not putting the front of the school on Regatta. Was there any serious consideration with leaving the front on Reynoldston? Or is it just well, I just want to know if it was serious consideration of leaving the front where it is.
Yeah, in order, as I said before, in order to do that, we would have to take the school offline for a couple of years in order to tear down the existing building and construct a new one. And the feasibility of that, I think, is probably not going to be possible for the district to handle. So I don't know if Brent, you want to kind of address that a little bit more?
Yeah, I mean, we're taking all comments, and like I said, I want to talk with you guys, Roberto, see what options we come up with to accommodate. But yeah, the one Roberto, Mr. Woodard, the one Roberto was talking about, it's something we'd have to relocate students to do. But you know, we're going to keep looking at it and see what else we can come up with. We can come up with a good middle ground here. So.
And there was a question on Facebook regarding where would the kids be sent if the school was taken offline. And Mr. Isaac, that is something that will be decided at that time by school leadership, if that indeed is the option that's selected or if that is required. So we don't really have data or input on that at this particular time, but certainly it would be something that would be thoroughly discussed and vetted through our school leadership team with the input from the parents and the community.
May I comment on that also? This is Steve Foreman again. The question, Brent, I think is a question that you should be answering, not the architects, in regards to how we're going to handle this. And the first thing I'd like to find out is if we have built a new school with an existing school still on the site and how we went about doing it. That's a good place to start. If the answer is no, then what other options do we have to look at trying to ensure that the neighborhood feels comfortable? We're partners with the neighborhood. They live there, and I want to make sure that we do everything that's possible to have a new school for Atwell, which I fought for. Also, not to put the neighbors against the school, because that doesn't work. They've got to work together. So I'm asking you, Brent, to make sure that we look at the options of trying to make sure that it's on Reynoldston. The front is on Reynoldston.
Yeah, we'll look at that. And in Dallas ISD, no, we have not done this concept before as far as building a school while another school is active. But it just so happened I have worked personally with Roberto and WRA in Fort Worth ISD where we did do the exact same concept. It was at an elementary school, so we do have some experience.
Okay, good.
And explore some options. Mm-hmm.
Thank you so much.
I think we're kind of drawing to a close on this particular meeting. It's been a great meeting with wonderful input from our community. And again, we're looking forward to working with you. I believe when you register for today, we do have some of your contact information. So we'll make sure that we can stay in touch with you regarding any future developments as we move forward in developing this particular project. We're very excited about the new Atwell, and we commend Trustee Foreman for her hard work in ensuring that this much needed improvement is happening for the community in and around Atwell. So with that being said, Mr. Alfred, if you want to have any closing remarks.
Yeah, I appreciate the Atwell community coming out tonight, and I'm sure Jackie will give me our number and stats of how many we had on Facebook Live and Zoom. And this is part of the process. Like I said at the beginning, we really want to hear from you guys. And like I said, we're going to go back to the drawing boards as many times as possible until we get it right. So I've heard your feedback, enjoyed it, and can't wait to get back to the drawing boards and present to you guys next. Which will probably be in some smaller groups until we have our next big meeting like this. I was anticipating late October, early November to come to you guys with our concept. But there's a lot of work to do in between then. And I'll be reaching out to Trustee Foreman so I can make sure that we can get the neighborhoods in that conversation. So thank you, guys.
Okay, we do have one hand raised, Marty Watts. Marty Watts, if you want to go off mute and make your comment.
Yes, I apologize. If the current building is left standing while the new one is being, built and erected and then torn down, with the current building being as old as it is, are safety measures being taken to ensure that the asbestos isn't being airborne and transported over to the new building while students are in there?
Yeah, we'll have a hazmat consultant come in and do sampling and testing for us, and then we would abate that under the state guidelines, NESHAP or THA, and make sure it's safely abated.
Okay, thank you. Trustee Foreman, would you like to make any closing remarks at this time?
Of course. First and foremost, I'd like to thank the participants in this meeting. It's extremely important. And this is not a us against them. This is something that we're all going to do together in a very productive manner. Atwell does need a new school. And so I'm excited about that opportunity. I'm also excited about working with the community to ensure that we all come up with something collectively that we can be very proud of. And I look forward to the future meetings and the future conversations regarding Atwell. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Trustee Foreman, again, for joining us this evening. Dr. Wiggum, you didn't have a chance to make remarks at the opening. Would you like to say anything at this time? You are the executive director for this area.
Yes. I'd just like to thank everyone for your participation. And I'm really excited about a project that we get to serve the students in the Atwell community. So only great things will come out of it as we push our kids forward to do well in their future academically, socially, and emotionally. So I'm excited. And again, thank all of the community members. Thank you, Trustee Foreman, for your insight and advice to all that we do, as well as those who are heading the project to ensure that it's great. So I'm looking forward to it.
Thank you so much. And last but certainly never least, Principal Whitfield, if you want to give our closing remarks and say good, and so we can close out the meeting today.
Absolutely. Again, I just want to thank everyone for showing up and giving us input. Your voices will be heard. So don't hesitate coming to the school. Don't wait for us to call either. You are more than welcome to stop by. Well, not quite stop by in the era of COVID, but I did put my cell number on in the chat. So please feel free, Mr. Woodard. That means you too. You and I have had several conversations. So my cell number is there, and feel free to give me a call. And like Trustee Foreman said, at the end of the day, we want to make sure that this is something that all parties are happy with. A collaborative effort is made, and we have a new Atwell that we all can stick our chest out about.
And again, once again, on behalf of Dallas ISD, we want to thank everyone for taking time out to participate in this meeting. The community voice is always important as we're building and developing new schools for our not just for our learners currently, but as we say, we want to think big, bold, innovative, and generational. So we're looking at making impacts and changes in our school design that will service not just our current learners, but well into future generations of Atwell students. Again, you can keep track of this and other projects, and the chat room comments will be saved and posted, as well as the video from today's meeting and the actual presentation. And there's also a survey form, a question and answer form, and you can find all of that at www.dallasisd.org/bond2020 meetings. Again, that's dallasisd.org/BONDMEETINGS 2020. And with that, we thank you for joining us today and wish everyone to have a very safe and happy rest of your evening. Good evening.